So welcome to this another video tutorial about measure of central tendency. This time we will focus on how to solve mode for group data. So now let's start to solve the mode for group data. We will be using the same table that we used on our previous video tutorial. So the formula that we will be using to solve mode is lower boundary of modal class plus D1, and we will divide it to D1 plus D2 and multiply it to interval. So before we can use this formula, we had to get first all the data that we needed. So the first one is lower boundary of modal class. Lower boundary of modal class can be solved using this formula. Lower interval minus 0.5. So, like I said earlier, we will be using the same table that we used in our previous video tutorial to solve the mode. So, our modal class is right here and our lower interval is 31, so we will be using 31 here minus 0.5 to get our lower boundary of modal class. So 31 minus 0.5 will be equal to 30.5. So now that we already get the lower boundary of our modal class, the next thing that we have to solve is the value of D1. So we can solve D1 by using this formula. Frequency of our modal class minus the lower frequency of our modal class. So if we take a look to our table here, the modal class frequency will be equal to 9. So the lower, we will subtract it to the lower frequency of our modal class, which is 6. We can see right here that the number below our frequency modal is 6. So 9 minus 6. So therefore D1 is equal to 3. The next thing that we have to get is the value of D2. So we can solve D2 by using this formula. Frequency of modal class minus the upper frequency of our modal class. So we will go back to our table right here. So our frequency of modal class is 9, and we will have to subtract it to the upper frequency of our modal class. So 9, and the number above 9 is 2. So therefore, to get D2, we will have to subtract 9 minus 2. 9 minus 2 will be equal to 7. So the last thing that we have to do is to get the value of I. So we can solve I by just using this formula, upper interval minus the lower interval plus 1. So our upper interval here is 35. So 35 minus the lower interval, which is 31, plus 1. So therefore I will be equal to 5. After we get all the value for our formula, we can now solve the mode. So our mode is equal to lower boundary of modal class, which is 30.5 plus D1, which is 3. So we will divide it to D1, which is 3, plus our D2, 7, and multiply it to our interval, which is 5. So the next thing that we had to do is to solve all the value inside the closed parentheses. So we will just have to bring down 30.5 here, and we will solve 3 plus 7. It will be equals to 10. 3 divide 10, and we will just have to copy 5 here. So the next is we will just have to bring down 30.5 again, and we will solve 3 divide 10. So 3 divide 10 will be equal to 0.3, and then bring down the 5. And then next is bring down the 30.5 and solve the 0.3 multiply by 5. It will be equal to 1.5. Last is 30.5 plus 1.5. It will be equal to 32. Therefore, our mode for group data is 32.